morning, everyone.
Good morning.
How's everyone doing?
Good.
By the way, I have to say, Sam and Beth did an amazing job. We are so lucky. I know I learned a heck of a lot, so I am very excited I get to be in the audience for that. The downside of being last is you've already been informed, so all you're going to get is entertained for the last part of this. And I'm going to tell you a story. So I want you to close your eyes. And I want you to think about the biggest innovation of the last 150 years. Now I want you to slowly open them. What'd you pick? I bet some of you picked social media, Facebook. I mean, after all, don't we love posting pictures and seeing pictures of our family and friends online? That'd be Mark Zuckerberg. Or maybe somebody pulled the supercomputer out of their pocket, this little thing that Steve Jobs invented, the iPhone. Or I bet somebody went all the way retro, old school, all the way back to the OG, the light bulb. Thomas Alva Edison, of course. So whenever we think about innovation, we naturally think about one man or one woman that reinvents the world in a creative stroke of bold genius, or what I like to affectionately call innovation with a capital I. But I would challenge us to think about innovation a little differently. Not quite as sexy. No blinding flashes of light, thunder from the heavens. No Hollywood sound stages. Instead, I want you to think about a triangle, drawn in ink, on the back of a crumpled napkin. This is no ordinary triangle, because on this triangle, blazoned the names of 3 Texas cities: Dallas, San Antonio, and Houston. And for any of you who have flown Southwest Airlines, you know that this napkin is the brainchild of Herb Keller and the disruption that he did to the airline industry by going to point-to-point, no-frills service that disrupted decades of the majors. Or we can come closer to home. How about right up the street in Williamson County? Tractor Supply Company. In the 1980s, most people don't know this, Tractor Supply Company was a small company. It was about the same size as Old Time Pottery, about $150 million. And they were hemorrhaging. Because the farm crisis had come, and they were serving a traditional rural farmer, and they were literally getting picked off one by one by one. So the management team could have stopped, said, forget it, we're done. Instead, they chose to pivot. And they pivoted to what they call the hobby farm, which are all the folks who live in the suburbs, the exurbs, and mid-sized towns in the South, but really love the rural lifestyle. That little pivot took them from being a $150 million company then to over $10 billion today. And while the Southwests of the world and the Tractor Supplies of the world are not Steve Jobs, they're not Thomas Edison, they, along with millions of other entrepreneurs, generate trillions of dollars for our economy every year. They're the heartbeat of our economy. And they do it with very little fanfare and very little risk. Or what I like to affectionately call a little innovation with a lowercase I. And so Old Time Pottery is a classic story of innovation with a lowercase I. So I'm going to warn you now, there will be no 10 Commandments coming down from Sinai during this presentation. I took over as CEO middle of 2019, first time CEO. I'd run some businesses before, big companies. I gotta tell you, being CEO, totally different deal. The buck stops with you. The decisions that 1,000 of my employees made every single day. And you don't get the trusty, welcome to being a first-time CEO manual. Instead, you learn the ropes by doing. You make a lot of mistakes along the way, and the first thing you learn is to be humble. Very humble. So the situation I walked into was a bit tricky. The company was losing money. The brand had lost its way. And our customers were voting with their feet right out our front door with lots of air in their empty carts. But I knew Old Time Pottery was a diamond in the rough, because very few companies offered the tens of thousands of home outdoor and season SKUs that we sold every year to our customers at a compelling value. And more importantly, our employees were committed to each other, and they were committed to the brand, but they were so tired of being micromanaged by their bosses. For years, CEOs had not invested in them, had not taught them and trained them, had not invested and empowered them so they could learn, grow, and own their mistakes. Our processes were convoluted. Trust me, they were the furthest thing from customer friendly, whether it was how we were buying the product, how we were setting up in the store. So I did the exact opposite of what you would expect a CEO to do in a turnaround situation. No one got fired. Everyone stayed. We focused on teaching and training. Got out from behind my desk, went to every single store, 39 stores, 11 states. Over the course of the first 6 months, I did it on the weekends. So that way I could spend the week in Murfreesboro with my team in corporate. And I worked on the sales floor with the team. And I sat at lunch tables with them, break rooms, and had conversations about how can we fix our business. Most store managers said they'd never seen a CEO in the store. It had been years. Most of their associates had never met the CEO, let alone worked with them. I earned their respect in that process, but more importantly, I learned from them the big and the small things that we were doing that were costing us millions of dollars. Simple clerical errors that got made in corporate could cause us to have far too much product in the store, far too little product in the store, or the wrong product in the store. Or a super well-intentioned policy, like I have on today. We had a 20-year policy. If you walked in Old Time Pottery, had khakis on. They were light. There's only one problem with khakis, just a couple problems. If you're a $10 an hour sales associate, your khakis get real dirty and real destroyed real fast. And then you have to go back to Old Navy and buy another pair, and you don't have the money for it, so you end up quitting. I found out about this while I was working a shift in Rockford, Illinois on a Saturday. We had an all-hands meeting on Monday, changed the dress code to jeans immediately. It was the biggest round of applause I got in my entire time as CEO, and literally people were crying. By the way, the bonus is they were crying, but they were crying about this. So we were really kind of starting to get into our groove over those first 6 months. You know, we were implementing these simple processes. We were making these changes. You know, we had cut it down from 900 price points to 36. We reorganized how the store was laid out. This was generating millions of dollars and clearing tons of excess inventory. Old customers were coming back. New customers were coming in. Lots of buzz in the community about what we were trying to do. Then, this little thing called COVID hits in March of 2020, and we nearly had to close our doors for good. In hindsight, the pandemic ended up being the greatest gift that we could have ever received as a company. But I'll tell you right now, it certainly didn't feel like that in March of 2020. Our traffic declined by 75% in 2 weeks. Governments were ordering us to shut our doors for lots of our stores. We had our backs against the wall. All we could do was furlough our employees and pray that the pandemic subsided before our cash ran out. It was by far the most difficult moment I ever had as a CEO, and the biggest crisis in my own personal faith of can we make it through this. But how many of you guys have seen Hamilton or heard the music? There's a great song in Little Hamilton. It says, "In the eye of the hurricane, there's quiet for just a moment. And in the eye of the hurricane and COVID, we had quiet. And it gave us a chance to step back and think about what we were doing there and why we were there as a company." And then the floodgates of innovation opened. In fact, you could say that necessity became the mother of, well, innovation. Happened right before Easter. We saw the psychological impact from our customers being locked down. We knew a lot of them wanted to get back, and we knew a lot of them had family members who were isolated living in senior centers. And then one of our team members got the bright idea. They knew that one of the things, if you've ever been in Old Time Pottery, there is a lot of room in our stores. And I mean a lot. Which is perfect if you want to socially distance, do arts and crafts, and make things, say, like masks. And we had fabric in our store. And the associate put these things together and said, you know what? Singer sewing machines in Tennessee. They're right up the road. Why don't we ask them to lend us some sewing machines? And we'll sew. They did. And our customers came in droves and made thousands of masks in just a week. but it got better. Someone else thought about the fact that we had arts and crafts supplies, we had puzzles, we had greeting cards. We also had a sister company that made medical grade masks, like the ones that you would have in the hospital. And so they got the right idea, and they said, well, why don't we give the greeting cards, the crafting supplies, and the puzzles to the senior centers so people have stuff to do, and why don't we give the masks to hospitals in New York and New Orleans, which are being swarmed with COVID. So we did exactly that, but we added a twist. We told the seniors, or we asked the seniors in the centers when we gave them the greeting cards to write get well cards. Those get well cards went to those COVID victims in those New York and New Orleans hospitals. And the seniors jumped all over it because it broke up the monotony of being trapped, and they felt like they were actually able to give back and invest in the community. The program was a success, and it started to spark a different type of innovation, a different way for us to start to think. And we said, well, maybe we can institutionalize this program. So we did. We started a little program in summer of 2020. It was called Big Hearted Bins. Super simple concept. We picked one charity, which we started with senior centers. Each store would pick a local partner who focused on that charity. And then for 8 weeks, you'd shop. We'd give you 25% off everything you bought so long as you donated it to the bins, and then we would take all of our excess merchandise and donate it with you, alongside of you. So, how much do you think that program generated in the summer of 2020? $25,000. I was shocked. Positive. Because there were not a lot of people in our stores. So then we said, let's try it again. And we did it. And we did it for domestic violence centers that fall. We raised $100,000 that time. So then we decided we were going to do it 4 times a year. And we switched to the charities. We did military families, we did homeless, we did pets waiting to be adopted, you name it. And over the course of those 4 years, we donated nearly $5 million to the communities that we served. And most importantly, it taught our team the value of giving back. Because we could do well by doing good. Because, by the way, our traffic went from dropping 75% to a few months later, it was double what it was before the pandemic. We went from losing money to having record profitability in 2020, and an even bigger record profitability as a company in 2021. And it changed people's attitudes about what they were there for and to serve. Our employees in corporate started donating and volunteering for the United Way because they really wanted to help out. So then we modified our HR policies, so we spread that so every single store had a United Way they could partner with. But then we told every employee, even the hourly employees in the store, that you can take 1 day off a year, we'll pay for it, and you can volunteer for the charity of your choice. The uptick was huge. What we also did is we changed how we thought about recruiting people. We were struggling to get talent just like everyone else was. So we started doubling down on folks who were from historically marginalized communities, whether they were justice engaged individuals or people who had physical and intellectual developmental disabilities. And what we found is it was a huge high ROI move because they performed just as well as their peers and they stayed twice as long. So for us, it was a great success. So when I think back to those 4 years before we sold the company last summer to Gabe's, I'm so amazed and blessed at the team that I had and the things that they were able to do. Sure, we didn't invent a light bulb. We didn't invent an iPhone. No Hollywood soundstage for us. No innovation with a capital I. But what we did do is we breathed life back into a brand that brought huge smiles to our customers' faces. We helped 1,000 working class families put food on the table every single day, and we reinvested millions of dollars back into the communities that supported us in our hour of need, which I personally think is not too shabby for a little innovation with a lowercase I. Thank you.